Meeting to order. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay. Board members, you've been provided the agenda for tonight's meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve this evening's agenda? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions at this time? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving this evening's agenda, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The agenda has been approved. Item number 2 is to approve the minutes from the June 14th, 2021 and July 1st, 2021 meetings. Do I hear a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I have a correction for one of those,
So we'll get to the correction in just a second. So do I hear a second for these meetings that had the correction, Ms. Hollis?
On June the 14th, for a personal reason, my husband was in there, and I think I voted on him, so I'd like to go through and withdraw that vote for him, and let the committee vote on the rest. The board vote on him without me.
Okay. You know that change. Does that make sense to board members? So on the 14th of June, we voted to approve Mr. Carl Hollis as a basketball coach at the middle school. And for personal reasons, Ms. Hollis would like to withdraw her vote.
Yes.
Okay. So with the corrected minutes, do I hear all those in favor of the corrected minutes, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay. The minutes from the 14th have been corrected, and then we voted on the first as I said. Okay. Item number 3 is the audit for the fiscal year 2020, and for that I'll turn it over to Mrs. Thomas.
Board members, we have Mr. Tyson here to go over our audit that they did for us this year. And without further ado, I'll let him come forward and share with you our audit for this year.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. My name is Tyler Dunaway. I'm an audit manager with CRI. I'm going to call words, don't worry. No, you're fine. I'm an audit manager with CRI out of our enterprise office, and I did work on the audit this year, so I'll go over that now briefly. It's for the year ended September 30th, 2020. There should have been an electronic copy in your board packet that Ms. Norman sent to you guys, but you guys also should have a hard copy. Does everybody have a hard copy? All right. So if you have any questions, feel free to stop me. Feel free to ask questions. I'll also leave some time at the end and ask if anybody has questions, so you can also hold them for then. One thing I will say before we get started is that it is, I guess I'll just say I'm excited to be here tonight, because a lot of times whenever we present these, it's not all good news. It's not always a fun presentation to have, but it was a good audit report this year. We didn't have any issues. We mainly did work with Ms. Thomas and Ms. Curry and Ms. Norman, and they were all great to work with. They're very, very hardworking and just do a great job. And so they made our job significantly easier. So thank you for that. So I will get into the audit report. This time you'll turn to page 2 with me. On page 2, you will find what is referred to as our audit opinion. And you will see in the first full paragraph under opinions, it states that the financial statements referred to present fairly in all material respects. And that is the highest possible opinion that we offer as an audit industry. So that is a very good mark for your school board to get an opinion. We call that an unqualified opinion, and that's the opinion that you received this year. So just wanted to point that out. If we'll move over to page 11. Pages 11 and 12 are the statement of net position and the statement of activities. This represents the aggregated, the combined activity for the entire school board. It includes all your funds, your child nutrition fund, your general fund, your local schools fund, all those funds rolled into one, presented in one single statement of activity and statement of net position. So later we'll go over the fund financial statements, which include each of those funds broken out. But you'll see on these two statements, all of the activity for the school board as a whole is combined. Just a couple things I wanted to point out, some big changes from year to year. If you look at the bottom number, the statement of net position, That is how much excess assets you have over liabilities, or in the case of the school board and every other school board in the state of Alabama, your excess liabilities over your assets. And that's solely related to the net pension liability and your OPEB liability related to PHIP. So those are liabilities that you're not necessarily going to pay next year or the next year or the next 5 years. They'll slowly have to be paid down over a long term. But that's the cause for the net deficit as it is stated at the bottom. $30 million was the total impact of the pension and OPEB liabilities. And so without those, you would actually have a positive net position of $3 million. So if you carve those out, you'll see that the school board has a positive excess assets over their liabilities of $3 million. But with those, you can see the numbers that are reflected there. All right, let's turn on over to page 12. In the second part of page 12, on the statement of activities, this is all the revenues, all the expenditures of the school board, again, as a whole. A couple things that I wanted to point out there. One was that your property taxes levied for general purposes, those were up approximately $120,000 for the year ended September 30th, 2020. And your local sales taxes were down approximately $240,000 for the year ended September 30th, 2020. There's obviously a lot of noise in these numbers because, as y'all know, COVID started halfway through this fiscal year, so it did have an impact throughout, as you will see. All right, let's turn to the next page, page 13. These are the statements I referred to earlier that break out each of your individual funds. So you'll see there's a specific column for your child nutrition fund, there's a specific column for your general fund, there's a specific column for your debt service fund, and then all of your other funds are lumped together into one. The ones that are presented are the major funds of the school board. And so just one thing that I want to point out on this page for the general fund, which is the main operating fund of the school board, it is the one that has the biggest impact on the school board as a whole. And the State Department of Education always looks at the fund balance for this. They want to verify that you have enough assets in excess of your liabilities to cover a certain amount of operating expenditures. Y'all did meet that requirement this year. Our number is a little bit different than theirs because they don't allow Ms. Norman to report some liabilities. So the number that I report will be a little bit different than what was reported to the state. But that's because they don't allow the salaries payable to be reported. So at the end of September 30th, 2020, you had 2.2 months of expenses in your fund balance. At the end of September 30th, 2019, you had 0.6 months. So you'll see that's a significant increase. That's a testament to y'all's hard work and getting the school system in a better financial position. All right, let's turn over to page 15. On page 15, this is the statement of revenues and expenditures broken out by individual funds. A couple things that I wanted to point out here. One is that your state revenues, that $10,671,000 under the general fund, that amount was an increase from the prior year of approximately $600,000. That increase is mainly due to the one-time payment you guys received from the Education Trust Fund. We know that does not happen very regularly or very often at all, but it did happen in fiscal year ended 2020. And so that's the cause of the increase in your state revenues. You'll also see at the bottom that your revenues exceeded your expenditures by approximately $1.8 million. That's what brought the fund balance into a better position than it had been previously. So that's all I wanted to cover in the financial statements themselves. Once you get past the financial statements, you get to a section that we call the notes to the financial statements. They're really just intended to provide some clarity on any numbers that you see in the financial statements themselves. If you want to turn to page 34, I want to point out just a couple things on this page. Give you all a second to get there. All right, so on page 34, you'll see this is a summary of the changes in your capital assets. So this is your buildings, your land, your equipment, your vehicles, any improvements you do to your land or your buildings. You can see that you guys invested $300,000 in those items in the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2020. There was depreciation of $640,000 in the same year. So you'll see that depreciation is outpacing the investment, not by a significant amount, but that is something that's an indicator of the aging of your buildings and stuff like that. But like I said, it's not a significant variance in those two items, but I did want to point that out. All right, let's turn over to page 40. On page 40, you will see what is the change in your long-term liabilities. This is mainly your bonds that the school board holds. You'll see that the bonds decreased $740,000 during the year under audit. That obviously decreases the amount of future obligations that you have for your debt payments, but in the near term, it decreases the amount of interest that you have to pay annually. So that's always a good sign whenever let me back up. It's not necessarily a bad sign to take out debt, because a lot of times you're financing things that you can't necessarily pay for in 1 year. So a lot of those capital assets. But it's also a good sign when it's coming down, because it frees up some liquidity to use in the next year that you might have been paying for interest. So not necessarily a good or bad sign, but something that I did want to point out. All right, let's turn over to page 45. So I mentioned earlier that the big driver of the deficit in your net position as a school board as a whole was related to your pension plan. So what they do is the state of Alabama calculates their expected amount of retirement payments that you're going to pay out for every employee you have, or every employee that is continuing to receive benefits. They calculate how many assets, how many investments they have to cover those projected expenses. And then they determine, is there an excess of assets or is there a deficit? And in the state of Alabama's case, there is a deficit. Now this number can swing wildly based on how much your investments return you over the lifetime of the pension plan. And so at the bottom of page 45, you'll see what is called a sensitivity analysis. So it basically says, the state of Alabama expects to receive a return of 7.7%. If we receive a return of 8.7%, your liability will be $5 million less than what we have reported. If we have an investment return of 6.7%, which is 1% lower than we expect, your liability will be $6 million higher than what we have reported. So that number can obviously swing significantly based on the amount of investment returns that you have. They change their assumptions annually, so you might see a change from year to year. And then on page 52, your PHIP plan that allows retired employees to stay on your health insurance, that is the same type thing. You'll see there's a sensitivity analysis showing what that liability will be based on your investment return changing 1% higher or lower, but also based on current healthcare costs increasing or decreasing 1%. So just want to point out that those are big numbers that show up on your financials. They're also numbers that swing wildly based on a couple of different factors. And then finally, I just want to cover the back of y'all's packet, page 69 and 70, pages 69 and 70. This is related to the single audit. A single audit is required whenever you expend more than $750,000 in federal expenditures. The school board always meets that requirement because it includes your child nutrition program, it includes your Title I programs, your special ed, CARES Act, it includes all of those type expenditures. And so you always have a single audit. We rotate which programs are selected each year based on the criteria that the federal government lays out. And so this year we tested the child nutrition program and we tested the Title I program. You can see in this schedule right here, it lays out if there were any findings, what type of opinion was offered. As I mentioned earlier, an unmodified opinion is the highest possible opinion. There was only one finding this year related to the Title I program, and it related to some of the time and effort reporting. So timesheets for employees, whether they be 100% or not 100% in the Title I program. So we did have a finding there. When we looked at that though, we didn't identify any issues with the cost that you requested to be reimbursed. And so it is a finding of a control that could be better, but it didn't impact, you didn't request the wrong amount from anything that we found. All right, so that is all that I have. Do y'all have any questions, any comments?
I think you covered this. But just, because that thing's running, I want to like maybe draw it out. Any red flags or areas that we need to be particularly concerned about?
No, there was nothing that we identified this year that I would say rose to the level of a red flag. So our deficiencies fall into 3 different categories. One is a material weakness, that we say this is an issue that's so bad that it is likely that the financials will be materially wrong because of this issue. And there were none of those. And so that's a good indicator that there were no significant red flags that were raised. All right.
Excellent. Any other questions? Thank you, Tyler, as well as certainly our leadership team for your efforts in such a good audit. It's always good to receive affirmation that we're managing our money properly in accordance with state and federal policies. So do I hear a motion to approve this audit? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion or further questions? All those in favor of approving the audit for fiscal year 2020, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay, we approved the audit. Item number 4 is the approval of the superintendent and CSFO performance evaluation for academic year 2020-2021. And board members, you've been provided the evaluations for both our CSFO as well as our superintendent. And do I hear a motion to approve the evaluation? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions at this time?
I would just like to say that I appreciate all the work that Mr. Seeland put into organizing the different evaluations that we turn in. And I know it was a little bit time consuming, but I think going forward, it will make the process so much easier since we have adopted this process just this year. So, Mr. Seeland, thank you for all the work that you did in putting this together for us.
Absolutely. Any other items of discussion or questions? Okay. All those that approve of these performance evaluations, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay. The evaluations have been approved. Item number 5 is board restructuring and nominating and then voting on the leadership team for the board for the coming academic year. And at this time, I'd open the floor for nominations for the board vice president.
Mr. Seeland, I would like to nominate Maxine Hollis to be our vice president for the coming year.
Thank you, Mrs. Kitchens. Do you accept that nomination?
Yes,
Okay. We will now vote on that nomination. So all those in favor of approving Ms. Maxine Hollis as our board vice president for the upcoming academic year, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Welcome aboard. Next, I'd open the floor for nominations for the board presidency.
I think that this year we had an outstanding president, and I would like to nominate Mr. Jonathan Seeland to fulfill a second term as our president. Term being 1 year. Well, we could throw 4 years in there. if you want us to, but 1 year is the term.
I will accept that nomination for 1 year and let the record show that. I will now, we will now vote on that. So all those in favor of approving Jonathan Seeland as the board president for the upcoming academic year, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay. And y'all are stuck with me, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Item number 6 is the financial statements of bills, payroll, and accounts, and monthly bank statements. I will turn it over to Mrs. Thomas.
Board members, you have been provided the bills and accounts, financial statements, and bank reconciliations for the month of June 2021. Highlighting for the period, utilities for the period of April the 1st through April the 30th was $20,987.90, which was a 59.9% increase over the same period last year. Sales tax for the month of June is estimated to be $382,413.80, which is a 14.9% increase compared to the same time 1 year ago. So board members, if there are no questions, I submit the monthly financial report for June 2021 and recommend it for approval.
Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. Do I hear a motion to approve these financial statements?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions at this time? One thing I'd like to point out is the utilities being higher is all off of the basis of last year, not much was happening at this time, in the summer.
Absolutely.
I'd also like to point out, always encouraged by increased sales tax revenue.
Absolutely.
So, I want to thanks folks for shopping local. Keep doing it, that's right. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thanks. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving these financial statements, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. And financial statements have been approved. Item number 7 is the approval of the fiscal year 2022 salary matrix. And for that, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Thomas.
Board members, the Act of 2021 through 30 authorized a 2% pay increase for all public employees, education employees beginning the fiscal year of the 2021-2022 year. The Act also requires that separate local salary schedules be established for each job type within the system. So board members, you have been provided a detailed salary schedule for the 2021-22 fiscal year. If there are no questions, I ask that this salary schedule be approved.
Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. Do I hear a motion to approve the 2022 salary matrix?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions at this time? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the 2022 salary matrix, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. And salary matrix has been approved. Item number 8 is the approval of surplus items, and for that, I'll turn it back over to Mrs. Thomas.
Board members, at the elementary school, we are trying to clean out some things that we need to get rid of. And with that being said, Mrs. Sims at her campus have about 233 desks that needs to be surplus. So if there are no questions, I ask for your recommendation or your approval to surplus these desks at the elementary school.
Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. Do I hear a motion to approve these surplus items?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion at this time? Hearing none. All those in favor of surplusing the 233 student desks, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay. You surplus the items. Item number 9 is personnel. So I'll turn it back over to Mrs. Thomas.
Board members, you have before you the personnel actions. If there are no questions, I ask that these personnel actions be approved.
Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. Board members, you've been provided that list. Do I hear a motion to approve these personnel actions?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions at this time?
On the teacher who is being moved to a 10-month teacher at the high school, are those funds, where will those funds come from?
CTE, if I'm correct, Ms. Moore. Are those CTE for the high school?
None.
For
It should be through foundation,
Foundation, okay.
but it's to follow suit with that particular job.
Yes, CTE.
With these actions, what remaining hires do we have left to do for the upcoming academic year?
If I'm correct, we're still JRTC at the high school and a teacher at the special education teachers at the elementary school.
that's a pretty good position to be in.
Yes, it's been very challenging to
A few
say.
weeks out, so I know there's been a lot of work done
Yes.
to get us to that place. All right, any other questions or comments?
I have one comment. We have our new band director here with us this afternoon, and I would like for Mr. Gannon to please stand so everybody gets to see our new band director for Charles Mason High School this year. We are super excited to have him as well, and his family here also have relocated to the city of Troy. So we're super excited about that. So welcome aboard, Mr. Gannon.
Thank you.
Yes, very nice to welcome you aboard and fill that critical position of need at the high school. You're not officially approved yet, so we need to do that. So, all those in favor of approving these personnel actions, including Mr. Gammons, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay. Now you're officially aboard. Okay. That'll leave you hanging there for another minute. All right, item number 10 is delegations. Do we have any this evening? Okay. Item number 11 is board member comments, and for that, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Kitchens.
He always starts with me. I'll try to keep it short so that the other board members will have a chance to comment, but with the restructuring of the board, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Seelan. I know it's not necessary, but he has led the board in a tremendous way this past year. He's been through challenging times, but he's been very organized and he has tried his best to keep us on task, and that has been challenging, getting the things to him that we need to get to him in a timely manner, and we appreciate his patience with us. And he and Mrs. Thomas have worked so well together, and I appreciate that too. She has kept us informed. She's met with him and with me when I was able to be there, to keep us abreast of everything. So I'm looking forward to this next year. Maxine, your job will be so easy because he will make it that way, so. But that's all I really have to say.
I think it's the first time I've ever been called organized, so put that in the minutes. Thank you. Mrs. Patrick.
I would like to say that this is my third board meeting attending, and I've learned a lot, and I'm very impressed on how the schools are going forward. I was kind of worried about all of the people that was leaving, but they leave for a reason. So I'm just so impressed how we got together and getting everybody by the time school is getting ready to start back. I had the opportunity to attend the school board orientation on Friday and Saturday. It was a lot of information, but it was well absorbed, and I'm looking forward to attending some more trainings.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Hollis.
Well, I'll just go through and piggyback off what Ms. Kitchens has said about you, and we're giving your props and stuff now that you've done a great job this year. I was new last year and really appreciate the organization, the informative, the professionalism that goes a very long way. And all of you, appreciate all of you for just working and just bearing with us and working through this situation and stuff last year. And we're praying that it will get better. Because I know that on the news we're a hot spot, so to speak, but we're going to pray and just go to and continue to weather through this, and looking forward to an exciting year and looking forward to hearing some great music on the field. So, yeah, it's ready to fire up. So awesome. Thank you for all of you do.
Thank you, Mrs. Hollis. I'd like to thank Mrs. Kitchens for her support over the past year and your willingness to always accept a phone call and have a conversation and provide timely counsel and advice and be alongside me and Mrs. Thomas as well as Mrs. Norman over the course of the last year. It's been invaluable, and I've enjoyed working with you. I look forward to working with you, Mrs. Hollis, over the coming year, and know that great things are ahead for Troy City Schools, and I'm confident we are on the right path towards success, and in the classroom, on the ball field, in the band room, and really in all aspects of our school system. Thank you administrators for your work on the audit. I know that has always been an intimidating and stressful process, but always good to have a great audit report and one that reflects the accuracy and professionalism to our work here at Troy City Schools. Also thank you school leadership for your work on personnel and hiring and getting the right people in the right positions. I know this is a stressful time, it's an exciting time as the upcoming academic year approaches, and we are just looking forward to the work that our team of administrators as well as staff and teachers are going to be able to accomplish this upcoming year. There's still a lot of uncertainty around the virus and the state of the pandemic and what school's going to look like. And I would just encourage us all to spend time to ourselves, getting prepared for the upcoming academic year, doing the rest before the storm, and then to our community and our parents, encourage you to start getting your child prepared for the upcoming academic year. Where possible, get vaccinated, and take the necessary precautions from your own personal health standpoint, because that will allow us to do our job, which is to educate our children in this community. So that's all I have for this evening, and I will turn it over to Mrs. Thomas for her superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Zimmerman. I too would like to take this time to thank our administrative team, specifically Mrs. Norman and Mrs. Curry, all the work they put into us getting that report that you guys heard. They have worked countless hours to make sure that our report came out the way that it did, and I am extremely appreciative for all the hard work that they all put into that to make that happen. I'm excited about the new year. However, I know there's still some hurdles we have to get beyond as it relates to this virus. I'm planning on having some meetings with some people in the community, EMA director and others in the community to make sure we make the informed decisions going forward in our school system as it relates to what we need to do to help mitigate the spread of this virus. I'm excited about our new hires that we have. Even though it's been a challenge in getting everybody into place, I feel very confident about the people that we have selected in these positions. I'm excited about the students being able to return and all the new exciting programs that we will have to offer this year coming back to school. And I do believe as well, Dr. Sill, that we are in for great things with Troy City Schools, and I just ask that each of you keep us in prayer that we have a great year going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. Item number 13 on tonight's agenda is to adjourn. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.